Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Kwesi. Can y'all hear me okay? Yes, okay, awesome. I want to start out by congratulating all of you that I've heard in this forum before, because so far I haven't heard anybody with any really nasty vocal habits. And believe it or not, this is actually rather rare. You would be surprised how many speakers, even Toastmasters, really aren't familiar with the physical concepts of how to most effectively use your voice. And I'm going to give you an example you may have heard of, Tony Robbins. Anybody not know who Tony Robbins is? I don't see any hands raising. Everybody knows who Tony Robbins is. Love the guy. He's got a great message, amazing stage presence. I love what he does in the world. Super lousy vocal technique. I'm sure the guy is hoarse at the end of any presentation because he pushes so much from his throat. Now, another example, if you haven't heard it, is Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about body language. It's a great message. Again, she has wonderful presence, but she speaks in vocal fry with lousy onsets. So you're going to hear a little bit about this today. And before I dive into the 4 pillars, I want to tell you that I have a handout for you, so you don't necessarily have to take notes. And each of those points that I'm going to touch on today, I have created a video. So you can go back and you can watch the video, you can have the notes. All you have to do to get that handout is email me at info@laurahandke.com. My last name is spelled H-A-N like Nancy, D like dog, K-E. So info@laurahandke.com. And now in the time I have, you are getting an absolute rush crash course. It would be much better if we had 45 minutes, but we don't. I've only got 10. So I'm going to dive right in and I'm going to start talking about breath. I can only see a few of you at the top of the screen here, but does anybody know you can breathe wrong? Anybody? Yes, Kwesi, how do you breathe wrong?
From the fitness standpoint, breathing wrong to me means you breathe from your chest and you don't let the air get into your diaphragm. Is that right? Or yeah.
Well, we won't talk about diaphragm today because that's a whole topic that is, so many people don't even know where the diaphragm is, but you are absolutely right, especially when people are nervous. They're getting up to speak, they're nervous, they're trying to breathe all from here, and all of this is tight, there's tension, and the belly is not relaxed. And plus, lots of us want to have six-pack abs and all that kind of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you fitness wellness experts in the group here. But if you want to breathe properly, you have to breathe with a relaxed core. And there's a way that you can know if you're breathing properly. Put your fingers together like this. So the third fingers are touching. Put it over your navel. When you inhale, those fingers should come slightly apart. That's how you're going to know you're breathing properly. I'm going to take just a second. Everybody close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. I don't know about you, but I just felt a whole lot more relaxed. Anybody else? It changes your brainwave pattern. You go from a beta state to an alpha state by taking 3 deep breaths. There is nothing better you can do for yourself as a speaker than breathe. The second one is pitch. Let's talk about pitch a little bit in that this is a really high pitch. This is a really low pitch, okay? While a lot of people speak, I would say 75 to 80% of the people that I see in my practice are talking too low. This is called vocal fry. Can you hear the difference in my voice? When I lower my pitch, I'm not in the mask. We're going to talk about the mask in a little bit, but you pull your voice in the back of your throat. You have no resonance. Your pitch is too low. Your onsets are lousy. Does this sound very attractive to you? No, but so many people talk this way, especially in American English and German, Finnish, Romantic languages, not so much because they have a different structure in their language. Okay, that's a whole nother topic I can't get into, but you don't want to talk down here in too low of a pitch in vocal fry. So that's pitch. Let's move right on to onsets. Anybody, again, not know the singer Adele? I see no hands being raised of the few of you I can see on the top of the screen. Everybody knows Adele, multi-Grammy award-winning singer, beautiful woman, fantastic voice, who has had to have notes removed from her vocal folds, not once, but twice. She was in a live performance where she had notes on her vocal folds. One of them started to hemorrhage in the middle of a performance. I don't even want to think about how painful that was. But a lot of us, including myself, when I started vocal training, spoke with lousy onsets because I didn't know what they were. I had never heard this term, and I don't think Adele has either. Now, let me make clear, onsets are only when you're voicing a vowel sound. Because when you've got a word that's like top, cat, box, chair, table, those are all consonant-oriented words, and your mouth has jobs to do. There's friction that's created by your tongue and your teeth. But with vowel sounds, I, E, O, you're very prone to what Adele does often when she's singing, which is called a harsh glottal onset. And it sounds a little bit like this. I, E, O. Okay, I'm really exaggerating here so you can hear it. It's much more subtle in most of us, but that's really tough on your throat. And done repeatedly, if you're a speaker, you're a singer. One of my own students came to me having had a note removed from his vocal folds. He wasn't using enough breath. His pitch was too low. He'd been talking with harsh onsets, and I was able to teach him this technique in about 12 lessons. And he now says, this is so effortless. I wish I would have known this all along. Well, so do I. I want to take this to kids in schools. Kids in schools need to know this stuff, right? So nice smooth onset. Instead of I with pushing from your throat, it's I, E, because you've got breath coming through your vocal folds, which vibrate to create sound. So you got to have breath flowing between them. And if you have a little trouble getting from a harsh onset to a nice coordinated one, you just put a little H in front of it. Hi. You can barely hear it, but it stops you from glottling. So that's onsets. Now, let's move on to resonance, and then you'll have a few minutes for questions at the end. So resonance is what classical music opera singers call being in the mask or the buzzy spot. There's all this space up inside your head, your sinus cavities. You want to point your sound right there. Everybody do me a favor. Close your mouth. We're going to pretend like we're a cow. And just go like this. Go. Well, breathe first. Make sure you breathe. And then go. Can I hear somebody do it? Kwesi, can I hear you? I can't hear it real well because Zoom dropped out, but did you feel anything?
I just feel it coming up through my stomach and through my lips.
Do you feel any buzzy anywhere?
No.
Try it again. Everybody try it again. And I want to hear if anybody feels any kind of a buzzy resonant sensation anywhere up here, up anywhere. Push the sound right there into your nasal cavities.
Yep, I feel the buzziness.
That's what you want. This is what we want as speakers, and there are tons and tons of reasons for it. Number one, it sounds better when I speak here than when I don't use my resonance and I drop my pitch and I speak here. It just sounds way better. But being in the mask or the buzzy spot, this is what is going to cause your voice to carry to the back of the room without a microphone. And when you're here, it takes all this pressure off your throat. It's amazing what a difference resonance makes. And for singers, it keeps you on pitch. And it doles out because your ribs are going to be out, your diaphragm's going to be expanded, you're in the mask, in the buzzy spot, and that is the most efficient and effective use of your breath. That's why singers can do those long notes, those long phrases, and just keep singing and singing and singing without having pressure here. And it makes your breath dole out like this. And that's really it in a nutshell. I don't know where I'm at time-wise. How am I doing here, Kwesi?
You're free to go. You're free to go. If you just cover your content, don't worry about time.
Well, that's really it. Those are the 4 vocal superpowers that most pros don't know in a nutshell. And it can take a while to kind of become conscious of all of this, but once it becomes into your muscle memory and your brain doesn't have to think about it anymore, your speaking life changes. You don't get hoarse at the end of the day. Your voice, your throat doesn't feel tired, and you sound a whole lot better. So with that, any questions?
I'll leave it open if anyone has any questions. First of all, thank you very much for the content. Very, very, very good content. I took quite a few notes here. So I want to open it up. If anyone has any questions, I have a couple, but I'll just wait to see if anyone else has any first. Gilbert, go ahead.
So if you feel hoarse at the end of a speech, or I guess your mouth is dry, what have you, which one of those would it be? Or is it more of a combination of a couple?
It's a combination. And, you know, I will honestly, if I'm going to speak for 3 solid hours, you know, I still might feel a little bit of tiredness, you know, towards the end of a 3-hour presentation. But the combination of learning how to use, because your breath is like the river carrying the sound of your voice. And people don't think about this. Once you get breathing properly, your ribs are out, your diaphragm is stretched and descended, and you're in the mask. So it is a combination of all these things. But the breath starts doing the work for you. So you're taking all of this pressure off your vocal instrument. It really makes a huge difference. And also, I didn't have time to get into this, but a lot of people just have tension in their throats. So, you know, I have all these new students coming to me that I call are the throat squeezers. So it's like there's all this tension and they're squeezing through their throat. And once you can learn to stop doing that, relax your body and let your breath do the work, all of that goes away. Now, dry mouth, that's kind of a whole nother topic. You need to be really well hydrated. And don't be afraid to stop and drink, a sip of water while you're presenting.
That answer your question, Gilbert?
Yeah, that's good.
Good. Before we get to Ruth, Annette, your hand is up. Is it a question you had earlier, or did you have a question?
No, I actually have a question now. Laura, you just mentioned your throat getting tight. I actually facilitate for a living, and I've had laryngitis 3 times. When I saw an ENT, they did recommend me to a speech therapist because my, I guess something within my esophagus was just far too tight. Do you have any other recommendations for me?
You know, actually what I would like you to do is I could talk about that for a solid half an hour. I would go ahead and sign up for my free consult. I offer everybody a free 30-minute consult, and we can talk about, I can tell you some of the things that I've been doing with my throat squeeze students.
That sounds perfect. Thanks, Laura.
Just go to my website. It's laurahandke.com. Just sign up. You can just sign up right there. And again, for anybody who wants to look at the videos, it's info@laurahandke.com. Just send me an email.
I'm putting it in the chat box.
Okay. Anybody else?
Okay. Yes, I think Karen was up first, and then we'll go to Lydia.
Thanks, Kwesi. Laura, I was curious when you talked about not having a voice that's too low, because
Yes.
so often we hear about people trying to get the timbre of their voice lower. And I understand from what you were demonstrating that there's a limit of how low. And I certainly understand when I'm trying to listen to someone, like a man with a very deep voice, they're much harder to hear than someone with a higher voice. But is there a limit on the other end as well, like to go too high?
I get this question a lot from particularly women who have higher voices by nature. See, the thing is, we're all born with a specific voice, and it's no different than having our individual fingerprints, the irises of our eyes. You know how people will scan those to identify it's you? Well, that's the way with our voices too. And I think my suspicion is, I can't prove it, but my suspicion is I think a lot of people have intentionally been trying to lower their voices and drop their pitch so they sound more authoritative, more professional maybe, especially women in a more professional corporate environment. That is my sense. I don't have any statistics to back it up. But the problem is with that is, again, it leads to the vocal fry and this gravelly sound in your voice. But even for women with really super high natural speaking voices, my experience has been every single time when I can get them to drop that forced pitch and their natural authentic pitch starts coming out, they do sound more authoritative, they do sound more powerful, and every single time the way that they are speaking and the way that they are reaching people becomes more authentic, and they're actually easier to listen to, and they make a better impact. So, you know, I would never encourage anyone to get up and give a speech like this. I mean, we sing up here. We don't necessarily want to speak up here. But when you start finding your authentic pitch, you sound better and you have a bigger impact. I have never seen it otherwise, not once.
Thank you. But you're right, though, Laura. Women are advised to speak in a lower pitch to sound more authoritative. I've seen that many, many, many times.
Yeah, and that's another, I'm kind of on a mission to change some of the bad vocal habits of the world, and vocal fry is definitely one of them. I'd have to say that's another, because I just don't agree with it. It's not true in my experience. To me, it's just trying to turn you into somebody you're not. And I think authenticity as a speaker is the best thing you can do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Laura? Oh, sorry, Karen. Good. So sorry, before Lydia, Ruth had a question.
Awesome presentation, Laura. You did a great job. I guess my question regarding breathing exercises, if you have a recommendation. I know sometimes when I'm doing a speech or I'm about to, or I don't feel like I'm centered, I have a tendency to hold my breath before I start versus breathing, right? I don't know if you have a breathing exercise you would recommend, or I know you did it at the beginning, taking 3 deep breaths, but is there other breathing techniques?
Well, it's okay. Number one, this is anything like anything else. It's a practice. It probably took me about 8 months. I mean, I didn't start this training till I was in my 40s. This is completely a second career for me. So what I tell all of my new students, number one, at the first lesson, I get them down on the floor on a yoga mat. And now with Zoom, I have to say, get down on your floor on a yoga mat and put your your laptop down on the floor with you, right? And if you can slowly learn how to just pull the abdomen in once so the ribs go out, because I mean, this is especially true for singers, but it's good for speakers too. If you can learn to keep your ribs expanded while you're speaking with a relaxed belly. And the best way to learn that is to get down on the floor on a yoga mat, because then you can see your stomach. When you inhale, it goes up towards the ceiling. Okay, and then you use that little tip that I gave you about the fingers. You put them over your navel, and as long as your fingers are slightly coming apart, you know you're breathing properly. So I'd say get down on the floor and do that twice a day, every single day. And then I've got vocalizes that I give people to do once they've taken a few deep breaths, and to keep doing it twice a day, every single day, until your body knows what to do, because it happens. I mean, that's the great thing about this. You know, for me, I don't even have to think about it anymore. I don't have to think about it. My body just knows. And that's awesome when that happens.